And here we are to give you a sort of kind of final update on the Coyote swap GT500. So as many of you know, I installed a Coyote engine in the Shelby. So what I'm going to do is kind of give you a rundown as to what it took. I'm going to drive it on the block, just kind of show you that it works, that I'm not lying, I'm just giving you idle videos. Everything's working properly, except a couple of things, which maybe you guys can help with. Before I get too into it, let's start it. Yes, the starter sounds like shit, but let's start it and get it outside, and we'll show you how the engine bay and everything looks. Okay, so here is the, I guess, finished product. Obviously, I'm not going to do anything with this thing NA at all. It's going to basically wait for a supercharger, go from there. I'm going to get a new battery tray and clean up the wiring. But the basics are there, and man, the amount of room. I know I have an S197, so it shouldn't surprise me, but it does. Because I have an insane amount of room compared to the Trinity motor. And I'm like, this is way, way more desirable. So the final touches to get this swap done was obviously the radiator hoses. Everything had to be ordered for a stock 11 to 14 Mustang. This guy, believe it or not, is kind of neat. Like for the radiator, it kind of sneaks in on the bottom. It's stock deal, had to put hose clamps on it. The heater hose that goes from the bottom of this tank to this guy, and then to the heater core, which is non-existent. All I did was take the factory line, cut it, and bypassed it onto a power by the hour bypass fitting. So that is doing its job. And obviously the radiator hoses are OEM radiator hoses with hose clamps, because the constant tension ones are a pain in the ass to take off, and I'm not going to sit there and battle constant tension clamps all my life. Now, a couple of funny things that are happening right now with the swap that I still really can't figure out. Number one, the reverse lockout, which I think I'm just going to disable on the T56, meaning I'm going to take it apart. It does not want to go into reverse unless the car is off. Now, I thought all you have to do is put a 12-volt signal to it and you should be good, but apparently that's not the case. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it for a quick drive, talk to you guys about that, talk to you guys about the parts list, I guess, that it would take to Coyote swap a GT500 using the stock computer, and what to look out for, because you know there are some things you have to look out for if you do decide to do a swap and hope to have a lot of stuff working. So let's take it for a quick ride around the block. Okay, so that's annoying. So right off the bat, let's talk about the reverse lockout situation. Yeah, the camera shouldn't really be in my face like that. Let's get it a little lower so you guys can see what the deal is with the shifter. So T56s have a reverse lockout. Don't really know why it's that important to have a reverse lockout. It's not like you're gonna go like this and go in reverse. If you're gonna go from, you know, fourth to fifth, it should be like a, you know, steady, easy. You know, you're not gonna shove it in there, but they do have a reverse lockout. Okay, fine. So right now you can hear, right there, it's kind of bottomed down that reverse lockout little solenoid. Then up here I have a trans brake. This is the trans brake that used to be on the car when it had a turbo 400. So I hooked up the 12-volt power source to the trans brake, and I would think the moment you know, actuate it, it should go over. So I'm going to click the trans brake. Then there you go. It's in reverse now. Let go of the trans brake, and then you're there. See, now let's hit the trans brake. There, see, it goes that little extra over, and the reverse lockout works properly. Issue I'm having, and maybe you guys can help me with, is this: when the car's running, it does not work. So let's get the car running. Ugh, sorry about that. Don't know what that is, so I'll figure it out. So, right, trans brake. Shut the car off. don't get it. Like, I'm getting 12 volts whether the car's running or not. I checked with this shit-ass voltmeter. I'm getting 12 volts from the trans brake wire to the trans brake, the trans brake wire to the reverse lockout solenoid, and it doesn't want to go in. So I guess I have to turn the car off to put it in reverse each time, which is stupid, but until I figure it out, that's gonna have to be what I'm gonna have to do. So let's take a ride around the block. If I can figure out that situation, it'd be awesome. Well, I don't know what it is. Like, I wish I knew. But so, because it's a faceplated T56, it goes in. So sometimes I have to like manipulate the clutch a little bit. By the way, this is an RXT1200 HD, way better than the spec clutch. Like, I can actually take off without any gas. Just, you can slip it better. The spec single, impossible. On-off switch, it was not usable. So what I have to do so that the car doesn't grind into gear is I have to double clutch. So that means you have double clutch to get it out of first, meaning clutch to get out of first, and then clutch again to get it into second, so it doesn't go. But again, we're just kind of tooling around the neighborhood. It's not that big of a deal. See, it goes in nicely. When you don't do that, it does that clunk, and I don't want to do that too much. But look, it sounds like a regular ass Coyote. Like, there's nothing. I'm just, when this had a Trinity in it with a Kenny Bell and cams and stuff, it drove like shit. It literally drove like shit. And driving a Coyote, a stick Coyote, is like wonderful. I can actually drive it like a normal car. It actually gives me black car vibes. This is literally how the black car was set up. Obviously, way better suspension, roll cage, the whole 9 yards. But I don't need to build the black car again, because here it is. T56, rods and piston motor, fuel system, just 25 pounds of boost away from potentially running an 8. Clutching is what you have to do on a transmission like this, but I mean, drama free. You're not going to hear crazy sounds because it's a Coyote. There's nothing exciting about it. These kids always want me to rev it, and I'm not going to rev my car in the middle of this nice neighborhood. It's a nice neighborhood with what do you call it, a HOA. So if I'm out there revving the piss out of the car, they'll know which one it is, and I'm good. I'm not gonna be that guy. I'm the respectful guy when it comes to the neighborhood rules. My timing was off. So it's got 373s. 266 first gear, same as before. Not super noisy. Honestly, it drives like a stock Coyote. That's why I like it. The clutch is the game changer. Game changer. I can actually feather it and slide it and work the clutch out to launch normally, whereas before, on-off switch. So, damn, that girl's tits were rocking. Shit, who knew that girl had tits like that? Fuck, I'm gonna have to hit her up. Good looking girl. There you go. So obviously you'll see that I'm gonna have to turn it off to put it in reverse, but whatever. But there you go. That's right around the neighborhood of the 1-1. So remember, guys, this thing has a spool, anti-roll bar. It's dumb stuff. So this is not something I would ever consider dailying. It's not even registered. It's just I'm driving it inside a gated community. So it's not going to be something you're going to see on the street. And if I do drive it on the street, it'll go to Cars and Coffee once in a while. But yeah, that's kind of it. So let's kind of talk about some of the other things to look out for in the swap in case you guys want to do something similar in the future. Okay, so this engine combo is a little unique. It's a Gen 2 intake cam, Gen 1 exhaust cam, Gen 1 exhaust phaser, Gen 2 intake phaser. I do not recommend that because you have to do some crazy stuff to the cam tuning to make it drive decent. And again, this is not a daily. This is something I don't think Lund will support, but because I'm just gonna go racing in it, I'm just gonna leave it as is. You'll notice it idles a little choppy. Not real choppy, but choppy enough. Why is that? Because, oh no, what the hell? Oh dude, really? God damn it. That's what happens when you store a car for a while and you're just doing dumb shit. I'm gonna have to clean that up. Oh man, oh well. I'll have to get that touched up. So, that sucks. So, this car, if let's say if you wanted to do this, you had a GT500 and you wanted to Coyote swap it. Well, what do you have to do? Well, number one, you have to put an engine harness in it. Absolutely. Number two, motor mounts. You gotta change the motor mounts because they're different than GT500s. Number three, headers. You're gonna have to get everything Coyote related when it comes to the exhaust stuff. Now, the other thing that isn't working is the speedo. But again, I don't know if that has to do with T56 stuff or what, but the speedo is not working, and the ABS wasn't working before because it's disconnected. All the ABS sensors and stuff are disconnected from this car, drag race stuff, so that traction control never ever interferes. If you're data logging in this car and you're wondering what the cam is, well, look at the fingerprints. If you're wondering what the cam, wow, what the hell, Alex? What is wrong with you, bro? It's disgusting. If you're wondering what the cam positions are, you're gonna exit gauges. We're gonna go back to data logging. It's gonna show 0, 0 on the data logger, data, you know, whatever log. But because it's a Gen 2 intake cam, you have to know that the cam is already pre-advanced. And again, I'm not gonna give too much away because not everyone needs to know everything. But I mean, fuel trims are doing pretty good. A little rich, so this E85 is months old. Cams are moving nicely. When you rev it, it should stay at 0 until you give it a little extra gas. It advances up to 20 on the intake side, and I have it limited in the calibration so that it doesn't advance more than 20 degrees. So again, harness, let's recap here. So again, this isn't like astronomical. This isn't like, you know, others have done GT500 Coyote swaps, but those have been straight race cars. This is a Gen 1 into Gen 1 stock computer, and basically a couple of parts made the swap happen. So engine harness, tune, motor mounts, headers, and all of the radiator stuff, because it is different than GT500. If you're gonna go NA or supercharged, it is totally different. So you have to configure it like a Coyote, basically buy all the radiator stuff as if it was a Coyote. If you want to adapt the GT500 radiator to accept Coyote, you know, fitting hoses, you can do that, but I didn't want to do that, so I bought a new radiator that was Coyote specific. It's a little smaller hose size, and again, all of the extra stuff like the vacuum lines and the hoses all has to be Coyote. So you basically have to just buy everything that is Coyote related, or go to a junkyard and try to get everything off of a Coyote so that it fits, because the GT500 stuff has a lot of heat exchanger and oil cooler and a lot of crazy lines going all over the place that are just not reused when it comes to putting a Coyote in this. But in terms of it being done, it's done. The fuel system is configured in such a way where it's return, but it's 55 PSI for NA. Once a blower shows up, I'm gonna configure it to be full return with ID 1700s, retune it and do that kind of stuff. But for now, I'm just gonna kind of wait around and see what my options are for supercharging. I do have a 2650 TVS in there that needs some bearings, so I might take them up to Kong and have him fix up the blower. But then I'm gonna have to figure out what to run for an intercooler, and then the belt drive stuff is another thing you're gonna have to consider. But I think this thing has a good chance, not a great chance, but a good chance of running 8s in the quarter mile. I think it'll get into the 9s fairly easily, because if you remember properly, that the GT that I had, the black GT, that thing ran 10.1 with a 75 millimeter pulley and a 2.3. So if this thing ends up with a 2.6 or some kind of 3-liter 3740 big blower, which I probably should do just to get the number over 1,000, because it is a low compression illuminator, And a lot of people that think this is a GT engine, just go back to the video where I did the teardown on this engine. There are Manley rods and Molly pistons on this motor with a stock crank, which is good for way over 1,000 horsepower, stock block, of course, and stock heads. But if the GT went 10-1 with like 12 psi, this thing with 20 psi should go 9s no problem. And then because it's configured for drag racing, cage, stiffer, better rear end, spool, badass T56, decent clutch. I mean, it's configured to, you know, potentially be a contender to run into the low 9s or high 8s. And the goal is to go 8.9. Once it goes 8.9, this is not going to be something I'm going to compete with. This is a decent little Shelby that I'm probably going to keep long term, because not everyone wants to buy an all-out race Shelby body with a Coyote in it. I will be getting the Trinity back probably within 6 or 7 months, because the engine builder wasn't a big fan of having that be crowbarred into his current engine program, and I totally understand. He is going to work on it off-site, and then Senior is going to probably more likely assemble the motor, because I'm more than confident in Senior's ability to put together a motor. He did the Shelby, he did many other motors, and if anyone has vast assembly knowledge, it's him. So there you go. Not much to the swap, just harness tuning and a couple of hoses away from having a Coyote in your GT500. So if you do blow up your engine in your GT500, don't go crazy looking for a 5.4. Don't go crazy looking for a 5.8, because after you price out a 5.4 or a 5.8, you're going to find out that you can find a either 3-2-1 combo, Gen 2 bottom end with a Gen 1 head, meaning keep it Gen 1 architecture. As long as the bottom end is robust, it can make more power than a Trinity has, and it opens up a lot of room in the engine bay, and it opens up your options for turbo kits, superchargers. There's a lot more supercharger options for Coyotes. There are a lot more turbo options for Coyote. So you're basically opening up your options while keeping it forward with a smaller, lighter, better, more power potential motor than your Trinity or 5.4 4-valve that was in it previously. So there you go. There's the update. The car's running great. I'm having a good time, just kind of learning a lot. Still have to figure out the speedo. Still have to figure out why the reverse lockout only works when the car is off. I don't get that at all, unless the other wire is giving it power. But I checked that too, and it wasn't doing that. So if you guys have any suggestions for taking care of that, be sure to comment below and kind of let me know. Hey Alex, maybe you can check this, maybe you can check that, and you can stop being gay, and then maybe everything will work out. So there's the update. GT500 swap officially done driving. Now it's just a matter of waiting to see what kind of boost I work with once the rainy season ends, because it's been raining for about a week here. We'll get it to the track and we'll see what we can do. Maybe get it up to Lund Racing, get it up on the hub dyno, and see if we can crack that 1,000 horsepower number with a low compression eliminator and like 25 pounds of boost. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll talk to you later.